Welcome everybody. This is the SharePoint Patterns and Practices monthly community call November 2016, and this time we have a slightly interesting setup. This is like the first time ever. Me, Bert Janssen, me being Vesa Juvonen, Bert Janssen and Patrick Rogers are sitting on the same room at Redmond when we're delivering this monthly community call. This is the week of MVP Summit, and that means that all of our MVPs are actually unfortunately sitting in a keynote in the MVP Summit. So it's going to be MSFT people doing the demos today and having a discussion with you. If there's any questions while we are presenting, feel free to use the IM window, but this is the monthly community call, so in general we kind of show you a run through of the month events, and then after that we will have a few demos on the end, and like mentioned, please use the IM window if you have any questions, so we get the stuff recorded properly as well. But let's actually get started. So this is, like mentioned, the PMP monthly community calls November 2016. I think we're hitting actually 2-year marker on our monthly community calls pretty soon. I think it was actually December 2014 when we started doing this, which is actually pretty cool. The agenda of the call and the process is relatively the same as it's always. I'm personally trying to be, again, fast on the summary, so we get to the demo section later on. But we'll have a quick look on the monthly highlights, so what has happened within the past month. So what are the contributions, what are the other stuff, what they have been releasing. And then we will obviously have a... Oh, I'm fading. Then we will obviously have a discussion around who contributed and what are the changes within the sample section as well. But let's actually get moving on the content itself. So first of all, if there's anybody new joining on the call and you're not aware, what is a SharePoint Patterns and Practices? SharePoint Patterns and Practices is an initiative, open source initiative, owned by SharePoint Engineering. And we, in the SharePoint Engineering, we use the SharePoint PnP to provide the field real-world guidance together with the field people. And that's actually really kind of exceptional. So we absolutely understand people in Redmond do not necessarily have all the latest and greatest knowledge on how people use, for example, even our products. You people who are actually watching and listening this are working with customers, and MVPs are working with customers, and we want to actually work with you and address your issues and address your challenges in the product as fast as we can. And that's really what the PMP is all about, giving you reusable solutions for SharePoint Framework, which is in dev preview, right? Or right now for SharePoint add-in model or remote APIs, which are in production. There's code samples, guidance documentations, all of these monthly community calls and all of that, what's happening. It's again up to you which of these you will join, which of these you will consume. And please do give us feedback using our community channels on what are you happy and what's missing, so we can actually address those as well. But moving on today's agenda, well, a small reminder, because this is a classic question which we get all the time. How would I know what's out there? And the easiest way to actually find all of our existing samples and guidance is to use the search tool, which is available in the dev.office.com. So if you go to dev.office.com and from the menu you select Resources and PMP, Patterns and Practices, you'll find code samples and guidance link, and in there we have a search tool which will give you the needed, well, you can actually search with the free text, as an example, branding or theming or user profile or taxonomy or whatever is your topic, what you want to or what you need to build for your customer or for deployment. And the tool will then tell you the existing guidance and also existing samples which you can take into account when you design your own solution for a particular use case. Good, let's move on things. So for this month, the PMP webcasts and videos. So we did release 5 different webcasts during this month. And these were around, for example, the PMP templates gallery, which actually got its first external template released last week as well. There's quite a lot of stuff in the SharePoint framework. SharePoint framework is coming relatively soon. Right now it's still only available in the dev tenants, but it's going to be then enabled in a different levels relatively soon, and then sooner or later also in GA. So you can actually start using the SharePoint framework in production in SharePoint Online. SharePoint framework will eventually also land on-premises for SharePoint 2016 during next calendar year. And that's really the way and the area where we will make our most significant investments in the future from engineering perspective. And that area is growing quite hectically as well. From a monthly metric perspective, I'm not going to actually go through all of the different drawings this time, so I'm going to slightly save some time. But I wanted to have this one slide, which is actually showing let's say, the usage numbers related on the PMP CSOM core component and the PMP PowerShell. Because if you're wondering that can I use this stuff in the production, an answer is yes, you can. This is absolutely production ready for you to consume and use within your production tenants. We hit 2,500 tenants where the PMP core component is used, either using the PowerShell or by using managed code. And the HTTP requests hit 830 million during October. So we are looking into breaking the 1 billion HTTP request limit during November, if the growth numbers are looking the same.
It's not really a limit.
It's not a limit, yeah.
It's a challenge, an opportunity.
Good point, guys. Good point. It's an opportunity for us. What we also track from a usage perspective is also the countries. Obviously, from a number of tenants perspective, the US is no doubt the number one country where the PMP stuff is used from a request perspective. Then United Kingdom, Netherlands, Sweden, and Germany are going up from last month. And then from a HTTP request perspective, US is there as well. And then Netherlands and UK, Brazil, and Denmark are going up. Obviously, the usage itself is highly dependent on what's happening across tenants. So if somebody is doing a massive migration to SharePoint Online in certain countries, that will then increase that usage from that particular country as well. But we're tracking our usage quite closely because obviously we in SharePoint Engineering are highly interested as well of knowing how much people are using the PMP, and then we can justify further investments on the PMP initiative where needed. Good. Moving on things. So just to clarify on this one before we go to the monthly highlights and other topics. So we do have multiple layers and multiple elements or possibilities being involved in the PMP. So the easiest way, if you have a question, you should be using the SharePoint developer group in the Microsoft Tech community. And the easiest way to get there is the KMS PMP Community, and you can ask questions, and there's multiple active community members helping people. We're trying to follow up on all of the questions as well, but it's obviously a resourcing challenge for us as well. Then we do have bi-weekly SharePoint Framework and JavaScript Special Interest Group, and bi-weekly PMP Core and PMP PowerShell Special Interest Group. And these are really because they are kind of a slightly different topic. So there are different people interested on the client-side development, different people interested on PMP PowerShell. So we want to make sure that we have a forum and a open community call where people can ask questions, where we can do demos related on those specific areas as well. The next call for SharePoint Framework, SIG, or Special Interest Group, is on this week, Thursday. And the next call for the core/PMP PowerShell is on week from here until Wednesday. If you download the invites, they are recurrent invites until end of June 2017. And then these monthly community calls is more around us doing a summary of what has happened within the last month. What does it actually, and doing obviously demos on the latest contributions. Good. So from a November 2016 release perspective, we have a lot of activities on the SharePoint framework side, which is good because that's no doubt the future customization model for SharePoint UIs and SharePoint Online at least. So there's quite a few samples which are using different techniques and showing different techniques. An idea of these samples is really pretty similar as with the classic PMP as well. We want to show you different concepts and technologies and then pinpoint them out in these samples. As an example, the Angular multi-page sample is a good one for showing how do you do multi-view UI using Angular and moving between the stage of the web part and showing different UI for the end users. Angular 2 prototype is a nice example, actually coming directly from engineering. We do work together with Angular people from Google to make sure that Angular 2 is working properly with the SharePoint framework. And there's some work still to be done, and we call out those things related on that prototype or within the README file of that sample as well. JS display link, relatively simple, simplistic client-side web part for rendering list items. But we do need to have simple samples as well. And that was really the reason why that's included in the gallery as well. And there's quite a lot of React samples which are then showing different elements and different aspects of the SharePoint framework development. On the, let's say in quotes, the classic PnP, which is more around SharePoint add-ins and remote APIs. Not a massive amount of changes, but some updates on the existing scripts, for example, for the hybrid cloud search service application configuration. Updated sample for the provisioning PMP deployer console, which is around provisioning stuff for SharePoint Online and on-prem. And business Office 365 Starter intranet, which is one of the most popular samples what we have currently, showing how to build publishing sites using the existing infrastructure within a SharePoint Online. And then a few adjustments in the PMP partner pack from a bug and quality perspective, or addressing those bugs which have been found. From a core component and engine perspective, obviously in the core component where we always work on a general overall quality and performance improvements and unit testing. But I would say that the key changes in here is actually related onto modern team sites and how we can provision modern team sites programmatically. And with modern team sites, we mean those team sites which are, well, actually already available in SharePoint Online, but it has not been that well documented how the modern team sites can be programmatically created and what you can modify with them. And we're going to do a demo on that one today. So Bert Janssen is going to do a demo on that one as well. We did actually do a demo on that one last Wednesday as well, but we're going to repeat it today because we were overlapping with a Microsoft Teams announcement last Wednesday. So we get it properly covered within our calls. In the core component, core JavaScript core library side, we're looking into releasing 1.06 later this week, most likely, depending on Patrick's time. So Patrick Rogers is really the coordinator for the client-side core component. And then on PowerShell, one of the most, well, I would say that the most important thing is that we are slightly renaming our PowerShell commandlets. This doesn't mean that you need to update any of the existing stuff, because we do have aliases available. So the existing SPO prefix commandlets will work for you in the future as well. But official commandlets have been now renamed as PNP. So as an example, get PNP Web or whatever the operation is what you're doing. It's no longer SPO prefix like it was in the past. And then as a new PowerShell things, really, really great and super interesting area. So we actually released a Connect PNP Microsoft Graph. And this is a startup for upcoming Microsoft Graph PowerShell commandlets for other areas as well. What it means is that you're able to use the PMP PowerShell commandlets to operate against, in future, against any of the Microsoft Graph elements in the same way as you've been doing operations with the SharePoint Online. And the main reason why we did this was that whenever you are creating a modern team site, you actually need to create a group using the Microsoft Graph. That's how you get to modern team sites. And we're going to show that one in practice today, like mentioned with Bert. Good. And like mentioned, and Nigel is actually asking that as well. Oh, does it mean that I need to change all of my scripts? Answer is nope. No, you don't have to. So all of the existing scripts will work. We are releasing an alias definitions for these. But sooner or later, we would recommend that people would do a replacement in the scripts for SPO to PNP.
Yes.
One little gotcha there is to get SPO site, which essentially was an existing commandlet in the official Microsoft PowerShell SharePoint Online. So we had like a
the same commandlet, and that causes problems if you want to use both PowerShell libraries at the same time. So that one is deprecated right now, meaning it's still there, but we will remove it most likely within 2 months as our default strategy, so in January. So,
and obviously based on your feedback as well.
Yes.
If it's needed, we can delay the change. And like mentioned, yes, we know that there's a lot of scripts out there, but sooner or later this was something which we needed to do because of the overlapping of commandlets. So we needed to rename, unfortunately, this, and we wanted to make that happen as fast as possible. You don't have to update your scripts for time being. But when you're writing a new scripts, we would recommend you to do a PMP, use the PMP prefix in the scripts.
Yeah, and it's pretty easy to update scripts as well.
And it's pretty easy to update the scripts. Yes.
Search and replace.
That's true. That's true. Good. Moving on things. One thing what we wanted to kind of give you a heads up, we are moving, and before you are freaking out, if you have forked or done modifications within a GitHub for PNP, this does not impact you at all. But what we will do is that we are relocating the PNP under the SharePoint brand. So it will be relocated under the github.com/SharePoint. Right now, the PMP is under the github.com/Office Dev organization. The thing is, though, that the GitHub people have done an awesome job on supporting this kind of a move. And that means that even though you have forked or even though you have pulled down stuff, all of the existing connections in GitHub will still work. So you're not losing anything. We're not losing stars. We're not losing forks. We're not losing any connectivity across the repositories. We tested this with a PMP.js core 2 weeks ago, or roughly like that. Started testing that, and we haven't had any issues with that one. So it works magically well. The reason is around this one is that the SharePoint PNP and patterns and practices is owned by the SharePoint engineering, and we want to make sure that it's actually visible also in our existence or in the URLs. But all good. It doesn't cause you any pain. In the future, when you're forking, though, we would recommend you to use the new URLs when you're pulling down your repos from the GitHub. And this will happen before the December monthly community call, but somewhere around the mid-November, slightly depends on our timing. There's a European SharePoint conference coming up next week, and everybody is pretty busy with that one as well. Good. This month we had a lot of people actually helping with the contributions. So there's a lot of people, individual people contributing across the repos, across the Office Dev and SharePoint organizations. And I'm not going to unfortunately mention all of you guys, but thank you enormously for your contributions for the benefit of others. And this way people can actually learn from your learnings, and we can build based on the common knowledge of the community. If you are participating on this call and you only see your name as an alias, please update your GitHub profile, because without updating your GitHub profile, we don't know if you want to be anonymous or if it's an accident that you actually haven't updated that. So we're collecting the names always from a GitHub, and typically we get the Twitter accounts from a GitHub as well. Also, if you're missing somebody, please let us know, because Ralph is doing in the iron window. So it might be that it might always happen. It's a human mistake, because these are really difficult to actually get from the repos. That if we're missing somebody, please let us know, and we'll make sure that you get listed in the blog post in the dev.office.com as well. From a company perspective, this is that's updated based on at least my knowledge on the latest, based on the contributions. So these are the companies who explicitly gave us permissions to use the logos for the sake that their people were contributing for the PNP within the last month. And there's a typical set of companies which are where some of our core team MVPs are working, but then there's a few additional ones who contributed as well. So thank you enormously for letting people to actually work on the open source for the benefit of the others within a community. In the Microsoft side, well, it's a typical set of people, and not if we exclude the core team or engineering people. Charles Mullins did an update on the PMP repo on the REST API example, and then Oliver Carpenter has been really active on the SPFX client-side web part evangelizing. So he's been doing an awesome job on providing great samples for people to actually consume related on SharePoint framework. Moving on things, quick summary before we go to the actual, before we go to the demo section. So what's in the queue? About the SharePoint framework, we're looking into still growing that sample gallery and increasing the quality of that, adding additional scenarios together with the engineering as well. Your contributions are more than welcome on this one. Because we want to make sure that we have a sufficient amount of samples to people to start learning the SharePoint framework development. Provisioning engine, we will concentrate on a modern team site customization scenarios. So what's actually, well, those things which we can customize related on modern team sites, we kind of add those in the native support in the modern, in the provisioning engine. The customization story isn't really super flexible for the time being with the modern team sites. And we will release a MSD and articles around that one, most likely later actually this week or early next week. .NET Core component, general improvements related on the team side provisioning, JS Core component evolving to be based on community contributions. PowerShell, general improvements, most likely we will see more graph commandlets coming in as well. We'll see how that's actually moving. And then obviously from a sample and solution perspective, the SharePoint framework is really the priority for the time being. Because we are closing anyway sooner or later to the GA, and we want to make sure that we have an existing set of samples for people to start using. Good. Let's move into the demo section, and what I wanted to, let's start with a Microsoft Bot Framework demo with SharePoint Framework. So I'm going to switch on my screen. After that, we'll move into Bert Janssen, showing the modern team site provisioning. There's a nice English typo in the demo title. That's fine. So we're going to show you how to do modern team sites programmatically, and then how to customize them slightly. And then as a final demo, we'll move to Patrick, and Patrick's going to show the latest related on the JavaScript core component. But let me share my screen, and let's actually start from there. So if I can find my right screen again. There we go. And if you guys don't mind, yeah, let's see. Just tell me when the loading has ended and the screen sharing is working properly. I can see that Patrick's computer is still loading on right next to me. And now he got the screen. Oh, Dan, Stefan, and Rajesh are saying same. Good. So, first of all, so this demo is around SharePoint framework using a bot framework bot, which has been created using the Microsoft Bot Framework. I did not create this demo. I created just an example chatbot, which I've been using in this demo. The actual SharePoint framework part and also the guidance which I used for creating my sample demo is coming from Gary Pretty. Gary might be in a call. I'm not 100% sure because I can't see the participants. But Gary can answer on the questions. We agreed that, Patrick is nodding right next to me. So if there's any questions around the example or the bot framework, he can answer on them. So Gary is really up to date on and has been working with the core bot framework for a long time. And the demo with the SPFX is more around how do we use a bot from the SharePoint framework web part as well. But yes, and Gary has the problem of no mic, and that's really the reason why I'm channeling Gary's knowledge for you guys during the call. But you can find quite a lot of information around the bot framework from Gary Pretty, CO UK, and this is actually the blog post which I followed to create my own bot application. which is then available as part of the sample as well. So great job from Gary from that perspective. So the documentation, I'm going to quickly run through what we've done here. So we do have a bot framework which is in preview. So this is the Microsoft bot framework, which is actually giving you awesome starting point to create your own bots. And really why the bots are super interesting is that, for example, in the Microsoft Teams, you're able to use bots as well. And I'm going to show that one in practice in this call in a second. But so you can actually build all of these, let's say, advanced scenarios with the Teams, even with the advanced UIs. So the Microsoft Teams actually supports more advanced UIs than, for example, the native Skype or the SPFX client-side web part for the time being. So you can actually really have that discussion with the bot and start building a logic behind of the implementation as well. In my case, what we're doing is essentially the process is also explained under the documentation. I'm a Microsoft guy, so I'm using a .NET, so we can actually go to the bot builder in .NET, and it's a connector service. And what it means is that we actually build a connector, a bot, using a bot application template. So I've already done that. I'm not going to actually build that, obviously, and I've essentially created my own bot framework bot, which is essentially oversimplifying things. It's a web API. It's a web API which is hosted somewhere in internet, which is then getting messages based and activity details based on the discussion. And then based on that message, it's just up to me what I actually want to do. In my case, what we're doing is that if it's just a random message, we're going to actually respond with a random response string. So I have a collection of strings which I'm then randomizing to have a kind of an illusion of having a discussion with somebody. So, but there's no knowledge, there's no artificial intelligence, there's no additional Lewis analysis on what's actually happening. This is just a random chatbot essentially responding back. Now, you can add all of the logic of Azure in here as well. So there's a lot of additional capabilities which are available, which you can take into account when you're implementing the bot. Technically, you could actually integrate this web API to talk back on SharePoint Online, talk back to on-prem. You can have a additional intelligence. You can ask questions around the end users and so on. So the opportunities are pretty interesting. And personally, I'm actually super kind of excited on the model because I'm a classic C# developer. So this is giving me the opportunity of still doing C# as well, not only SPFX and client-side development. Nothing wrong with that, but nice to be still able to use those old skills as well. But I'm going to do an F5 for this one, just to quickly show how it's actually working. And there's my bot now running in localhost. With bot framework, you actually get this nice bot channel emulator, so I can test my bot. And what it means is that I can say, hello there, and at this point my endpoint in my Visual Studio in localhost is actually getting hit. So I can actually do testing and making sure that my bot is working properly just by using that bot emulator before I actually deploy the bot available within Microsoft Azure. Now, when the bot is ready, I'm going to deploy that to be hosted in internet, and then I need to register that in the bot framework UIs in here, which is in the bot framework site. So it will be then available in my bot gallery, and then I can actually link what are the services which we want to link this bot together with. The easiest way to start testing that when it's actually deployed in Microsoft Azure is to link that with Skype or Microsoft Teams. And with Skype, I can do directly testing with my Skype as well. And now it's talking against my bot within Microsoft Azure, which is hosted in Azure. And it's going to reply back in any second. Hello. You there? Oh, there you are. 42 is the answer. Well, that's true. Yeah.
H?
Yeah.
Just noted.
So I can actually then have a discussion with the bot. I can send commands with the bot, and then it can have much more significant, let's say, logic behind of the discussion as well. Now, what's interesting with the bot is that I can actually get this bot just by using the Microsoft App ID as a tool to my Microsoft Teams as well. So what I've done here is that I've just used that ID to find my my chatbot, and then after that, as long as I have a connection to Microsoft Teams with the bot framework UIs, the bot is available in the Microsoft Teams as well. So I can actually have a discussion here as well. Hello there. You up? Oh, I have a question. Sure. And I can have that random discussion. Well, it's just taking a random string from the options, so it's not really that intelligent bot. Sure. And what's the question? No.
Seems pretty intelligent.
Yeah, it's pretty intelligent. Yeah, pretty normal thing. What happens for me?
Oh.
And now it's repeating the same thing. But anyway, so I have a bot hosted in Microsoft Azure. And after that, how do I actually use that in the SharePoint framework? So I can actually make that happen as well. So what Gary did, he provided a sample, which is a React-based client-side web part, which is then using a Spacker for the REST API of the bot. And what this one is doing, if we have a quick look on this one before we actually run it, it's a React-based client-side web port. It has some property-based settings to configure the bot. Actual implementation, this is the web port file. Actual implementation is in here, the web bot framework chat. So it's a component built in React, where we actually bypass the web part properties, so the configuration of the web part. So based on those configurations, then the actual component will start behaving slightly differently. Before I actually go slightly deeper, let me show that one quickly in practice as well. So I've pulled down the SPDFFX samples. I'm going to do gulp serve, and I'm going to run this from my local workbench just to show that everything is working properly. My gulp serve will start everything up and running in a second, and it's going to open up my browser as well. Come on. There we go. And like mentioned, Kari really did the whole UI implementation for this one. I do have a bot framework chat here. Right now, by default, it doesn't actually do a thing because we need to configure that. We need to tell what is the bot which this chat tool is chatting with. And so we need to go to our bot framework UIs. Let me actually go in here and in here. So we're using a direct line channel, and from here I'm actually taking the secret, the direct line secret, which is then having the information around the connection, which bot this chat fellow is talking to. There we go. I could actually configure some of the additional UI elements, but I don't want to do that. We've already applied the changes, and in this case, I can start chatting with the bot. Hello there. Are you up? And this way, the bot is again answering us on random questions. Sure, tell me what. But again, we could be adding something like, hey, add or create me site collection and add new owner as Patrick. And voila, we could actually create a site collection if we would like to. So again, it's a matter of choice. Maybe the scenario with client-side web part isn't really that mind-blowing. I would say it's super cool, but maybe the more common scenarios now that Microsoft Teams is out is to have a discussion and a UI together within the Microsoft Teams or within Skype. But on the other hand, just as well, within your intranet, you could have a page where you have a bot waiting, where people can start asking questions. Tell me the address of Munich office.
Around support bot.
And support bot, yeah.
One page of your entire.
Have an issue with Outlook.
And I think one of the key things is it's the same bot everywhere. So
Yes.
you're going to get, if you invest in that development,
Yep.
you can use it and surface it in all these places and get the same responses.
Yep,
So
exactly.
it's
It doesn't
really
matter
powerful.
where I'm actually reaching the bot itself is the same, but I'm actually using that. Well, the UI where I'm actually asking the questions doesn't matter. And what's cool with the Teams, as an example, So this Teams bot here, the Teams apps for iOS, Windows Phone, Android. Do we have a Windows Phone? I don't know.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So all of those actually can be used to chat with the bot as well. So while you're traveling, you have your mobile phone with me. I can actually chat with my test reply bot when I'm traveling anywhere I want to go. And that's actually kind of super mind-blowing. But at the same time, also the carry pretties, just a generic sample on how they're building the React component with an SPFX, which is then talking to a bot. It's a super, super great sample on how to build React components and web parts using the SPFX.
Which will then work anywhere on your phone if you can access your internet.
True, that as well.
So that you can use the same bot technology via your phone that way as well.
So as long as you don't have to have the Teams application installed, as long as you can access a website which is hosting this SPFX, you're good to go for asking questions. That's actually pretty cool. So let's actually, from a timing perspective, not going to spend too much time on deep diving how the client-side web part has been built. It's a React-based component. There's actually the chat component. The chat itself is then using the direct line Swagger JSON to talk to that direct line REST endpoint. But the actual implementation, it's a typical React web part, the React component, which is then discussing with that bot whenever you're sending a message. Let's not deep dive on that one. From a timing perspective, let's rather move to a following demo, which is Bert Jansen, and let's talk about the modern team sites and how do we provision those programmatically.
All right, thank you, Vesa. I'm gonna steal the screen, so I'm gonna present my monitor. So can you guys give a shout when you see the screen?
I got it.
Okay. So what's this all about? As Vesa already mentioned, with this November release, we introduced a set of new commandlets in PMP PowerShell, which essentially is our first start in building grab commandlets using the grab API. And these commandlets, our first implementation is creating a modern team site. So for the folks who are not aware of modern team sites, if you today go to your Outlook and create a group, then you can also, actually can also show it. Let's quickly show it as well. So if I would go in my Outlook, today I can create a group via Outlook. We will have soon a group creation as well via SharePoint. But essentially, once we have that, you have this site link, which is not really visible, but this brings you to your SharePoint team site linked to a group. So every group will have a SharePoint team site with it. Every team site in the future will have a SharePoint group with it. And what I'm doing right now in this demo, in this with this new commandlet, is actually allowing you to automate the creation of the group and the creation of this particular team site behind. So let's have a peek on how we do that. The first step, we need to connect to Microsoft Graph.
Slightly zoom the font, just it's pretty small.
All right.
It's good enough for us because we have a 65-inch monitor in the room. But
this is better?
Yeah.
So first step, connecting to Grab, and actually this is pretty cool here. And I think Paolo did this work, and it's really cool work because
He's using the Microsoft Authentication Library, so we're not
using ADAL anymore. We're using the new Microsoft Authentication Library, which allows you to provide the permissions that you need. So I need group read write all because I want to create a group, and that's it. You don't need to define an application in Azure AD up front. You just say like I need these permissions, and on the fly we will ask you to do for your permissions and grant you these permissions. So I'm gonna execute this guy. Press F8. Gonna run this. So I get a nice pop-up. I need to sign in. So the thing with this current implementation is that it requires a user context. So the group API doesn't really yet work using an app-only context. So you have to authenticate. So I need to pick the right user. So many users.
So this is exactly the same as Connect SPO online.
Yeah, but then for Grab.
For Grab, yes.
to copy passwords, sign in. Alright, that went well. We are connected. Let's just check out if we have an access token. F8 on this one. Access token. So now we should have a variable. Let's see. And we have an access token being retrieved. Now you don't really need to grab the access token explicitly, but you can use the same access token for other scenarios. So if you want to do other grab calls or use a REST call to grab, at that point you have the access token available for.
No one copied down that access token.
It's time-based. You can copy it, but you have to be really, really quick.
15 minutes or something.
You have to type it as well. So.
Yeah.
Anyhow, okay, we have an access token just to show you that you can do that. But the real meat of this new command list is around creating a group site.
It's again pretty small. Come on, Bert.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But I can't run it when I'm zooming, so that's the point. So I can't execute when I'm on zoom. But I can show you it first, yeah. So next step, we'll execute this commandlet, new PnP unified group, which will use the grab API to trigger the group creation, which actually creates the change group, because a group is a change mailbox and a SharePoint site, and then the commandlet will kind of force the creation of the SharePoint site. So by default, the behaviors that you so the original behaviors, you go to Exchange, like I showed you, you go to Outlook, you create a group. It creates the group, but if you click on Files, at that point we created the underlying site. And with this commandlet, we kind of force that behavior, so we automatically go to the Files API to trigger the creation. Now, let's gonna give this a try. Select it. I'm going to press F8 just to launch this commandlet. I do have to warn you guys, sometimes it fails. It's not 100% bulletproof yet, so let's see if the demigods are with me. But there is some we need some additional waiting logic in the commandlet, and okay, I'm not so lucky today, but trust me, it will create the group site. It will be there.
So even though it failed, it actually will create the site.
It's actually doing the work, but somehow we're returning too soon. So we need to have additional waiting logic in there to kind of pull once the site is ready, and maybe we should also kind of optimize the whole site creation experience. So there is some work going on in engineering as well to make this a smoother and a faster experience as well. So, but this is our V1 of this commandlet, and will definitely improve over the next weeks. Now, once we have created the group, it's actually a regular team site, a regular SharePoint site, I would say, not really a team site, it's a group site, but you can use default SharePoint code. So, also default SharePoint PowerShell. So I'm going to try this one. Press F5, F8, sorry. Here we go. I'm gonna actually use to connect PnP Online commandlet. So not connect SP Online anymore, connect PnP Online. But you can still use SP Online as mentioned to connect to a group site which I created just before this session, because I just want to be sure that we have a site ready.
Even though the actual site creation is super fast. So when you're creating a new group using the new group UIs and whatever, that doesn't actually take that long.
No.
It's well, we used to actually have the site collection creation. We all know if you created a site collection in the past in SharePoint Online, it can take up to 15 minutes. The modern team sites are created within a matter of seconds, and that's a massive improvement.
Yes. So here you see just basic result of the code. It returns the web template and the configuration ID, so group 0, which is clear sign that this is a group site. Alright, watching the time, we have additional commandlets like get PnP unified group, which gives you a list of all the groups that you can access as a user, because this is always running in user context. And we also just want to show you this one. So Professor talked about customizing group sites, that there is some challenges. Well, I think the challenges are pretty okay, meaning we can do a lot of work on these sites as well. And one of the things that we tried out is actually applying a custom theme, and that even works. There are some challenges there as well, but it does work today.
And it's fully supported.
And it's supported. Now, for time's sake, sorry, I'm gonna actually show you what I did. So I have a site here. This one. So if you look at the site, you see that we have a custom logo. We have a background picture. So this is actually a custom theme applied to a modern group site, which is pretty cool. Alright, I think with that, I'm going to leave some time for Patrick.
Oh, before we go there, actually, there's a good point from Daniel. Can we go back on the site? Because I think the modern theme site is something that people haven't seen that much. And if you go to the home page of the modern theme site, that's what actually is super interesting, even in the personalized or branded theme site. Because this is the one where we have a custom theme, right?
No, this is a regular one.
What about the custom theme one?
Theme one, here we go.
Because you can actually see it nicely that it has the custom theming and everything else. So, and it has the modern news functionality. It has the quick links functionality. It has a lot of other things as well. If you put the page on edit mode, just quickly showing that as well. It's using the canvas, the modern canvas related on the UI. So you can actually see all of the modern capabilities. And what everybody in the call, if you're interested about modern theme sites, you can create these already manually in any of the Office 365 tenants. So if you create a Office 365 group, it will actually have this modern theme site associated to it.
Actually, this is what you have today already available via. Sorry, if I go via mail, you can do it today.
Yep. Well, it depends slightly on a tenant. So in my case, it actually provisions me completely new modern theme sites. So it slightly depends. So, but you can have the modern, if you go to that group, if you go to group files, just making sure that we show this one in practice. If you create a new group from the Office Outlook in Office 365, if you go to the files section, if you go back on the front page. Oh, site, yes.
Yeah. This is a new group which we just created.
We just created this group. Now, what happened? And here we go. Now we're in a new modern theme site. If we click home from the left, and this might be really well hidden, for time being, you actually land on the welcome page of the modern theme site. So you can get all of this created already today. And Daniel has a good question around how does the new theme site differ from an infrastructure created when currently create Office 365 groups from my users to store files. Technically, it doesn't. Well, if it's only for your personal usage, then it's a slightly different thing. But when you're creating groups in the Outlook, actual Office 365 groups, you will get the modern theme site there as well. We used to get only a document library, but nowadays you're getting modern theme site as part of the Office 365 group.
This question from Russell. These modern theme sites, do they appear in SharePoint Tenant Admin Center? And the answer is no.
No, they don't, unfortunately.
And also not in the APIs, so you cannot enumerate those sites currently.
So you can enumerate them using the Microsoft Graph, but you can't
regular SharePoint APIs
using the SharePoint command lets, yes. Does anybody know if the modern theme sites will get a column support for some point? Would be nice to have web parts side by side on the UI. So this is around the layout of the UI. And the answer is yes, that's coming at some point. For the time being, unfortunately, it's only one canvas. That's one of the things, obviously, in the roadmap for the future as well. And maybe if somebody is freaking out that, hey, how can it be only one in quotes, a web part zone, even though it's not a web part zone? This is part of this is the first release of a modern theme site. And again, what we want to do from a SharePoint engineering perspective is rather to give you early access on the modern and new capabilities. And then you can decide when it's mature enough for jump on board, for you to start using that. Rather than wait for months and months and months and then come up with something where you cannot give us feedback, and it might you would have to wait quite a long time to get access on the new capabilities. So we rather want to have you an early access, even though we know that there are limitations on the capabilities, but you have early access on and you know what's coming up and how it behaves and all of that. Good, but from a timing perspective, let's make sure that Patrick has some time to do latest on JavaScript core side. So Patrick, please take it over. So just show the presentation.
Should be coming up, hopefully.
So Patrick is taking over that. Do we have any good other questions while that's happening? Nope. We actually went through all of the things. Yes, we went through. And we are releasing additional guidance from a customization perspective, what's supported, what's not today with the modern team sites later this week as well. So all of that stuff is gradually getting more, you can see more and more information around all of this stuff pretty soon. But Patrick, take it away.
So what I wanted to show today is some of the stuff that's coming with the next version of the library. So this is not in the current version, this will be in the 106 release. But it is all in the dev branch, so you can pull down the dev branch and play with this stuff today. So what I wanted to show you first is we've added, and all of these I did want to mention as well, came from suggestions from the community for either enhancements or new functionality. So I want to say thanks, great feedback from everybody, and it's led to some direct improvements in the library. First things first, we've added much better support for reading and writing files. And to do this demo, and this code will all come when we do the release, there'll be the standard blog posts describing what's new, and you'll be able to download this solution when we do the actual release. So don't worry about kind of copying all this code as we go. But you need to add some stuff to a script editor web part to make this work, and we're going to run this sample, and behind the scenes, I'm just going to do a gulp serve to get that running. And just wanted to step through this real quick. And so you can see I'm setting up our pattern practices client-side logger and adding the console listener. So we're just going to write stuff to the console in our case. And then I'm using jQuery. So once the page is loaded, I'm adding a button to the page to do the actual upload. This is pretty standard stuff, but I felt it was worthwhile showing you kind of how everything was working. Then I'm grabbing the file input, getting the file, and then I'm checking its size. And we actually have two methods we've added for how to do these uploads. The first is add, which does a simple one-time post of the file, and the other is add chunked, which actually does the sort of chunked upload to SharePoint REST to get things so you can upload much larger files and avoid timeouts. If you're trying to upload a very large file, you're still subject to the timeout limits. So I want to show both of those, and I've just hard-coded the paths here where we're going to upload it. You can, of course, upload it anywhere you want by altering the logic here. And it takes several parameters, and then the chunked one I want to highlight also takes a progress function, so you can track the progress using the data we give you out to have a progress bar or somehow update the UI as these large file uploads are happening. So let's go ahead real quick, look at the page. I'm just going to refresh the page real quick. And so you can see my really fancy UI. And first thing I wanted to do is I'm just going to upload a text document. So if I do that, before I do that, I'll show you nothing up my sleeve. The document library is empty. Sorry. So choose our file, we'll hit the button, and we can actually look at the console, and we can see our done message has appeared, so we know our file is uploaded, and if we refresh the actual document library, we'll see we've got our text document. So, kind of impressive, but also wanted to show slightly more impressive is wrapping up the chunked uploading. And if we go back to the console, you can see it's going to actually output, and this is just outputting that progress data we give back sort of directly to the console, so you can actually track what progress is being made, and you can do the math and show a progress bar or something like that.
It's pretty cool, Patrick.
Yeah. So, super cool. So this allows you to upload the much larger files very easily with a simple call to our API, and then it actually wraps the begin, continue, and finalize upload REST methods Great feedback from the community actually led to this improvement. So you can see we've got some pretty great bandwidth here. By default, we're doing 10 megabyte chunks. You can play with that. You can pass that into the API and update that. So if your network is a little slower, you're getting timeouts, you could do 5 megabyte chunks, 2 megabyte chunks. You could do 25 megabyte chunks if you've got a big pipe. That's up to you, but you can track the progress there. And if we, there we go. And if we look at the document library again, I wanted to show the file actually does show up, and if I click it, we could play the little movie. The last thing I wanted to show around files is much more improved support for the reading of files as well. So I'm going to comment out the stuff that was uploading, and we've got 3 different methods now. Get blob, I'm going to show you get text, and there's get buffer. I did want to make a note, get blob will not work in Node.js, simply because the way Node processes files, it doesn't really do blobs, it does streams or buffers. So just a note there, but get text will also work in Node just fine. So did want to show you, if we go back here, and I'm going to refresh the page so we get our updated JavaScript stuff. We're updating in the background. I hit the button, which actually triggered our activity, and uncaught error. Oh, that's unfortunate. 1 second. Bundle is valid.
Demo guards.
Cannot read size. I'm doing something wrong here.
URL is different.
I've commented out too many things. Let's see. So we'll skip that, but just trust me. Since we're running out of time, it does actually read the file, and it would write that out to the console, and it would just be the text contents of that file. So, much more better improved support for reading and writing files. We're a little bit out of time, but did want to touch on we've added support for the search suggest API, another suggestion from the community, and we've added improved support for failed HTTP requests. We weren't really logging those at all, which isn't really great. So we added logging, so anytime an HTTP request fails, we're going to log it to our logger. So you can subscribe any of our out-of-the-box log listeners, for example, the console listener, and you can very easily write your own listeners as well if you want to write to some custom store. But that's going to make it much easier to debug your failing HTTP requests. That was actually something I did to help myself as much as everybody else because I was having some trouble debugging stuff. So some great improvements, like I said, hoping to get that out later this week. And we'll have the blog post with all the details around that release. And I did want to thank the community again for the great feedback and keep that coming.
Cool. Thank you, Patrick. And let's switch just quickly on a closing of the slides. So I think we're wrapping up the call. 3 actually pretty interesting demos, all of them touching slightly different areas of SharePoint and Office 365. And hopefully you'll find the demos and content useful. If you don't like something what we're doing, please let us know. That's really the easiest way to influence on what the PMP is doing as well, because we want to make sure that whatever we are doing is valuable for you guys as well. We are pretty much running out of time from a Q&A perspective. If there's any random quick questions in IM window, feel free to get them in. We have 2 minutes because we want to close on time as well. But I would personally strongly suggest people to have a look on the SharePoint framework stuff. That's coming up relatively soon, like mentioned. So getting gradually ready on what's coming. Obviously, we do understand that you have your day job, and most likely people are looking into that more closely whenever it is actually fully available. Right now, it's only available in dev tenants. Relatively soon, slightly, it's going to be in a first release tenants, and then sooner or later it's going to be GA. But when it goes to the first release tenants, then you can actually start using have access on much more better data and all of that. The modern team sites, a super exciting capability. We'll come up with a company-wide communications more and more on that one during this week. And from a customization perspective, we'll have an MSDN article which is pinpointing what you can do right now within the modern team sites. Things are evolving in the future, so there will be more flexibility, more additional things to modify and customize and configure in modern team sites as well. But we'll get there. So it's a step-by-step gradual process. And then you can actually decide when the modern team sites are mature enough for you to start using, and then you can jump on them rather than using classic theme sites. Again, up to you to make that decision. The client-side JavaScript library evolves super fast, super powerful thing. You can actually use that already today with adding model. Already in on-premises, it does not have any dependency on SharePoint framework, but you can use that when you're doing a SharePoint framework customizations as well. So it's really powerful library targeted for SharePoint on-premises as well. So great work on that side from a community and Patrick as well. But good, we'll get the recording to YouTube within 24 hours, like typically, and we'll get the Twitter announcements when the video is available. But thanks everybody for joining. Before I close, there's a good question from Peter in red. Sorry, I missed that. How about old team sites? Will they disappear? No, we are not removing the old team sites. So it's again up to you. Do you want to use modern or classic team sites? So we're not actually taking that away right now. Just making sure that people are aware of that, and it's a clear message. But that's it. Thank you for this one. Thank you for joining, and hopefully we'll see you in the special interest group calls, in the community, tech community, Microsoft.com, or in our next monthly community call within the 12th or 13th of December, just before Christmas. And hopefully we have great presents for you for that call as well. So thank you, and we'll be absolutely in touch. Bye-bye.